Hello and welcome to The Game Changers. I'm Sue Anstis and this is the podcast where you'll hear from trailblazing women in sport who are knocking down barriers and challenging the status quo for women and girls everywhere. What can we learn from their journeys as we explore key issues around equality in sport and beyond? I'd like to start with a very big thank you to our partners Sport England, who support The Game Changers through a National Lottery Award. I'm excited to say that in this, the 18th series of The Game Changers, I'll be talking to founders and entrepreneurs, the women who have set up organisations that help change the landscape for all women and girls in sport. My guest today is Kelly Newton, the founder of NIXI Body, absorbent and discreet underwear for periods and little bladder leaks. NIXI Body has a focused mission to keep women moving through menstruation, motherhood and menopause. Kelly's doing so much to open up the taboo conversation around female incontinence and is an expert on stress and urge incontinence in women, a topic which is incredibly relevant in sport, as we'll hear. A desire to stay active was the biggest driver for Kelly to design her first pair of leak-proof underwear back in 2019, and she knows the massive impact that exercise can have on mental and physical health. It's been a joy to watch the evolution of Kelly's company, with NIXI Body products now sold in Boots, Superdrug, Decathlon and Mountain Warehouse, along with being on QVC and at Parkruns. So Kelly, clearly your products are now having a massive impact, especially for young active girls. So can I take you back to your growing up and what was your experience of sport and I guess of periods as well too?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me on. You know, I'm overwhelmed to be on here. But my first sport that I ever played was actually football. And my mum and dad weren't really into sports. My mum was a keen sport. She watched lots of sport on the TV, but my dad wasn't really a sporty person. So I had the opportunity to play in a football team on the estate that I grew up on. Called the Ferrier Girls. And actually the Metropolitan Police organised every summer, they organised a massive tournament for all of the kids growing up in London. And so we were entered into this team and I absolutely loved it. We had training every week and we actually were one game away from playing at Wembley.
Wow.
So we actually beat the Millwall Lionesses in a semi-final at a game. So I was 9 years old. They used to call me Chopper Street. My maiden name was Street because we've got videos of me I just literally would go flying in and take girls out and score goals. It was absolutely brilliant. So that was my first experience of playing a kind of team game and I really enjoyed it. So when I went to secondary school and I went to an inner London girls' school, we had 4 female PE teachers who were really enthusiastic about getting girls to play all kinds of sports. So I played netball, I played hockey, I was in all of the teams at school, I played tennis, I threw the javelin, I did the hurdles, I did cross country, I did dance and I did gymnastics as well. So all of these amazing sports that we played in my girls' school, you know, back in the early 80s, which I look back now, I think actually was quite unusual for us to do all of that. Periods wise, I didn't start my period till I was about 14 and it was a total shock to me. I mean, I knew we'd had like a half an hour lesson on it in biology, so I kind of knew what was happening, but my mum never really spoke about periods. I had 2 younger sisters and I started my period and was absolutely mortified. And the first thing I did was go home and steal one of my mum's absolutely ginormous sanitary towels and didn't tell her about it for about 3 months. She actually almost confronted me, like, where have my sanitary towels been going? And I remember crying because I was so embarrassed. And my mum was just from there, you know, just help yourself and I'll just get extra and you can take them. So there wasn't a lot of innovation. There still isn't a great deal of innovation, I think, around period products, but that was the only product that was available to me at the time. Until obviously when I was later and I started to discover there were tampons and started to use those. But I always had very, very heavy periods. And actually, when we went to the doctor, I was in a lot of pain. They put me on the pill, which I now know has just kind of masked all of those kind of symptoms that I had over the years. So yeah, that was my start in life through playing sports and my period experience.
How old were you when they put you on the pill for? Yeah.
I was 16.
Oh, wow.
So I was about 14 when I started my period. I think, do you know what as well? I think because of playing sports, I've always been very active and I was quite a skinny child. I don't think I wore my first bra until I was 15. And even then, I didn't want to wear this bra. I used to play, I remember playing sports, and we didn't have sports bras in those days either. And I just would undo the bra because it was so uncomfortable. I was obviously in the wrong size, but didn't really have a lot of boobs until I left school. And then I didn't do a bit of sport when I left school. My boobs just got absolutely massive. And I think that's because I wasn't playing as much sport. I don't know. It's very weird. Very strange body I've got.
And did it impact your playing sport then? So your periods came a bit later perhaps than average, but did that impact the volume of sport you were playing?
It didn't have an impact on the volume of sport I was playing, but I do clearly remember trying to play netball in being in absolute agony and wearing this ginormous sanitary towel, which was moving about all over the place and constantly worried about, am I leaking through my score? Is it, can people see it? Is it going to fall out? All of that kind of fear. So I do remember all of that, but it my period never ever stopped me from playing sport. And I also have a real core memory of, there was a mixed school just up the road from where I lived. And every Thursday night they did netball training, and I used to go along with my friend Sally. I was 14, 15, and I clearly remember there was a note that somebody had written themselves to the PE teacher to say that so couldn't do PE that day because they had their period. And I remember so clearly thinking, why is your period stopping you from playing sport? Like, I couldn't get my head around why they couldn't continue to play sport. And that was coming from someone who had very heavy, painful periods. I knew back then that sport was really important for me, both mentally and physically. And it kind of got me through a lot of situations. So yeah, that was a real eye opener for me at that young, tender age as well.
It's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because there's obviously so much research now out there about the impact of periods in stopping teenage girls from playing sport. But I'm similar to you. And I always think, I was that sporty girl. Yeah. But it would never have occurred to me to fake a note to say I couldn't, for my period to have stopped me. No. But similarly, it was uncomfortable, that whole worried about leaking. I was a swimmer. So all of those things, but it would never have crossed my mind. So, but it is interesting, isn't it? Is that just because we already had got the bug of the sport, that we knew the benefit of it?
Absolutely.
And actually, if girls don't have that passion, is it more likely to stop them? I don't know the answer to it, but it is quite interesting, isn't it? Whether it's
yeah, I think so. And I always think it comes a lot from mums taking their girls to sport, or girls seeing their mums or their parents or their brothers or their older sisters playing sports. But I didn't have that. There was nobody in my family who played sports. So for me to get the bug and just to run with it and love it, I think is quite unusual, I suppose. I knew it was something I really wanted to do, and I absolutely loved doing it. If I could have just played sports every single day and not gone to any lessons, that would have been the perfect school for me.
We'd have been good friends, you and I think, at school at that time.
Yeah, definitely.
You've gone on, I know, you've had 2 boys and you've fostered many children as well too. So I'm really interested to find out more about that. And I guess how you've shared those different discussions now with your children growing up, whether, that generational change, but how it's been different in your family.
Yeah, I mean, so we fostered for 19 years. In fact, our last foster daughter left for university 5 weeks ago. So we're currently just me and my husband and our 2 boys. I've got to say, it's lovely. It's so nice. We've looked after 28 children over 19 years. So yeah, and the last girls that we had them for about 11 years. So we had them from 5 up until they were gone 18. So,
and that's 4. You had 4 girls.
I had 4 teenage girls. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was really hard. Teenage years were really, really, really tough. Teenage girls can be pretty vile. I know boys are hard, but teenage girls can be very, very difficult. But it was great. My mum is amazing. My mum is absolutely amazing. I love my mum to bits. We just didn't talk about those, periods and stuff like that. So I was always ultra, we're going to talk about this. And I'm not just going to talk to the girls about periods and bladder leaks. The boys need to know about this as well. So, I mean, when I started my business, because I ended up being diagnosed with endometriosis in my late 30s. And had it lasered a couple of times. And then I had the coil inserted, the Mirena coil, and I bled every day for 9 months with the Mirena coil, which is why in the end they said, would you think about a hysterectomy? And I was like, give it to me now, kind of thing. I mean, what happened then was I'd started early menopause. I say early menopause, I was in my early 40s, 10 years ago. I started the menopause when I was 42. But because I suffered so badly with that, it was really important for the kids to really know what was going on with me, and to try and understand a little bit about all of the things that I was going through. And I felt that was as important as they knew about periods as well. So we always talked about what's going to happen to your body from a really early age. So we had a bag ready for the girls. So if they did start their period, they knew that they could go, and there was a selection of goods. It wasn't actually my knickers in there at the time because I hadn't designed the knickers, but one of my poor little foster daughters started when she was 9 years old. Wow. In fact, 2 of them started at 9 years old, and I wasn't here, I was away. And so, but bless her, she felt comfortable enough to speak to my husband, who then rang me to explain that this has happened and he has already given her some sanitary towels. And she spoke to me on the phone and she said, "It's fine. Dad sorted me out. It's absolutely fine." And I was like, oh, yeah, she was so brave. And yeah, and we talked about it. So everybody knew about it. I know for a fact that, my boys would support their girlfriends. And in fact, my boys are always saying, can you give them some of your knickers? They know about your knickers. Can you? So the girlfriends have the knickers, and I know that they talk to their friends at work as well about, periods and stuff like that. So, and the menopause, because they're well versed with the menopause now because of, how bad my journey was, I think. So yeah, I just think it's really important to have these conversations very early on, and to let them know that, about what is a normal period, how much blood we should be losing each month. And if you are having cramps, cramps to a degree are a normal part of a period. But if you're suffering for quite a long time and it's pretty severe, then that's not actually normal. And yeah, to know that we can get support, and we need to go and get support if it's not right, and we need to be able to advocate for ourselves. And I think that how we raised our children was to always give them a voice to speak out if something wasn't right, and to be able to advocate for themselves, sometimes to my detriment. It's like, all right, enough now. But I just think it's so important that girls and men as allies need to understand about what's going on with women's bodies.
And in terms of your leak-proof pants, how did you first come across the concept? Why did that become such a passion for you to find a solution for women?
Right. So firstly, obviously having 4 teenage girls in the house who are all having periods, I was actually starting to get really conscious about how much waste we were producing. I think, I'd go into the bathroom and empty out a sack full of disposable towels and tampons. And I was like, oh my God, this is just our household. What's it like across the world? And I looked at the stats, and I think it was 200,000 tonnes of waste is produced every year just in the UK alone from disposable pads and tampons. And then you look at what they're made of, and they're bleached, and we're actually shoving bleached filled cotton wool into the second most absorbent part of our body. So there was that. And then the fact that these products take between 5 to 800 years to decompose. So your grandchildren's 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 grandchildren are going to be on the earth with one of your used pads and tampons. I was like, oh God, that's a bit disgusting. And they end up on our beaches and our landfill. But then I obviously was suffering with bladder leaks at the time. So I was playing hockey, and every time I stretched for the ball, a little bit of wee would come out, and towels really, really aggravated me, really uncomfortable. And I've had a lot of issues down there. I was always having infections. I get UTIs, and, I just want to make sure that actually what I'm using down there isn't affecting my vaginal health. So, this was probably about 8 years ago, and I looked online and found that Amazon was selling these leak-proof knickers. I thought, oh God, I'm going to give these a go. And I ordered a pair, and they were absolutely vile. They were so disgusting. They were huge. Some of our knickers are big, but they look nice still. But they rustled like a crisp packet when I wore them. So I felt like everyone could hear me coming, walking down the road. I was like, oh, this doesn't. And they just felt super uncomfortable. And they weren't actually that leak-proof. And I felt like I was wearing a nappy. Yeah. So I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. And in my naivety, that's when I thought, right, I'm going to design a pair of knickers that are going to be super discreet, that I can wear underneath my gym leggings and not feel conscious. And they're going to be quiet. And there's going to be no plastics in them. So that's literally where the idea came from. And obviously playing hockey, I played with an amazing team of women all around the same age, all different ages, but a lot of them were middle-aged like me. And we were going to the toilet before the game. At half time, we were running off to go to the toilet again. And then straight after the game, there was no time for a team huddle because we were all back in that toilet, all conscious that, we're going to wet ourselves kind of thing. And it turned into a bit of there's a lot of women also suffering with the same as me. So I'm not alone. And that's, I think, we started to talk about it. There were a great team of women and everyone was exactly the same. And I thought, well, actually, we need to talk about this a little bit more because I don't know anybody else talking about these issues. And I know that I'm not alone. So that's kind of where the idea came from.
And that's really interesting, isn't it, in terms of you're playing hockey and you're experiencing yourself. But can you tell us a little bit more, I guess, about those often undiscussed, as you say, issues around incontinence and that impact leaking that happens for so many active women, especially in those team sports at an elite level, but just generally for all of us out, playing sport?
Yeah, so I think the stats say that 1 in 2 women will suffer with some degree of urinary incontinence throughout their lifetime. So it's 1 in 3 women, but that rises to 1 in 2 when you're going through the menopause. So, a lot of the team sports that I play, the women are my age. So we're all going through that. But actually there are stats that say that the younger girls, I can't remember the exact stat. I think it might be around like the late 40%, that young girls also in higher impact sports are suffering with bladder leaks. So, it's actually a lot more common than we actually believe it is. But people weren't having those conversations. I mean, obviously, you've spoken to Baz from the Well and the great work that she does, and she knows what she's talking about. They're bringing the conversations to the forefront now. And that's something that we're really passionate about at NIXI as well. We want to have the conversations that nobody else wants to talk about. And I'm very happy to talk about, my bladder leaks, my endometriosis, my menopause. Connie always says I'll meet somebody for the first time and they will know about my dry vagina within 5 minutes of talking to them. I used to be mortified, absolutely mortified. And I think it was worse when my boys were at school as well, just the thought that any of their friends will find me on Instagram. And also we were models at the beginning. We were modelling our knickers at the beginning. So there's a lot of knickers out there, a lot of photos, of me and my knickers.
Seen your mum in her pants on her website, yeah.
I've seen your mum's friend, your friends, mum in, it's just embarrassing, it's mortifying. I used to be so embarrassed. Hopefully we've got all the photos off now. I feel like, we've got some fantastic models. We've still got my mum modelling. My mum's still her photo in her she's in her knickers everywhere. But I just feel like now, I feel like I have a duty to talk about this. And we go to events. We do like the running show each year. And I always remember there was one woman and she kind of stopped and she looked at the stand and it was quite busy and she walked away and she walked around about 3 or 4 times. Eventually the stand was empty and she came up and she went, I thought I was the only one. She said, I actually thought I was the only one that this happened to. And we get the most amazing messages from customers just saying, you've just made such a difference to my quality of life. The fact that I can now go running and not have to worry about, am I going to leak through my knickers? Is everyone going to see? Just giving them the confidence to go out and do that sport. And that's literally what it's all been about for me. I know how important it is to keep my body moving, and I just want everybody else to understand that as well.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. I think that is, if you just think about the numbers of women that might now be coming back to take part in all those things because they feel more confident of something. But it's a bit heartbreaking, isn't it? A woman saying she thought she was the only one. But I think it is something that we just haven't discussed. Or if we have, it's been a bit of a joke or no one's really openly talked about it in a comfortable grown up, this is happening to us all type fashion.
Yeah, definitely. And it just takes one person, I think, to open that conversation. And I mean, we talk about women a lot, and actually if I start the conversation, I always have people come in and talking to me, and it's great. It's actually really difficult for men to talk about this. I think women, it's a very taboo subject. It's a very difficult subject to talk about, but we can open up a lot easier than men. And it's, in that way, I think it's very beautiful what women have. We have connections and communities, and it's so powerful to do that and to have that.
But as you say, it's so important, isn't it, for your boys, so your sons, but for men to be aware of this too. I was thinking when I was doing the introduction to this podcast of almost, we're going to talk about leak-free, and actually are men going to immediately, because we do have men that listen to this podcast too, going to almost switch off because they feel a bit uncomfortable listening. But actually they're the very people I'd love to be listening to this too, because actually, and maybe they will, maybe it's an opportunity to listen to something they wouldn't want to have a conversation about right now, but they might want to know about for their own wives, girlfriends, daughters, etc. And especially in the coaching space too, of the sports coaching too. Exactly,
yeah. I mean, it's hard enough if you're a male coach and you're coaching younger girls, talking to them about periods, because someone's going to feel uncomfortable within that conversation. But then to be able to talk about bladder leaks as well, it's very, very difficult. I feel like it's periods are taboo, but I feel like bladder leaks are actually even more taboo than that, because who wants to be known as that person who's like wetting themselves and maybe smells of wee? No, you feel like you just feel so unattractive. I feel so lucky that I've got a very, very supportive husband and my kids are amazing, and they do joke about it, but actually I don't mind about that because we're talking about it. At least it's out there and I don't feel embarrassed about it anymore. Obviously going into a room full of men, I used to really struggle, and I think we might talk about funding at some stage, raising investment. I found that mortifying. Absolutely. I felt, and still now, I don't want to go into a room full of men and talk about my issues, because I do feel like they're like, okay, why would I want to invest in this? And, that's just not attractive. But, I feel so much more comfortable in groups with women. I'm in so many WhatsApp groups with amazing business women, and obviously the Sports Collective. I've got over that kind of embarrassment, but still have a teeny little bit of shame around it sometimes with men, which is really silly because I talk about it all the time.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? And it is that shame, isn't it? Is that the word that you would use. I was going to talk about the kind of practical side, because as you say, I made me laugh at that whole noisy pants, because I remember discovering around that time, but I never thought about that. I've said all the wonderful assets of your products, but not that they're noise free. That's such a key thing, isn't it? But I believe you designed your first pair. So how did that start? And I'm really interested in that. Well, I'm interested in that process, and then the timeline from your initially creating your own underwear to actually retailing it. How long does that all take?
Oh, well, it took a long time anyway, because I had just started the menopause, so I was not in a very good place. Like I said, I was very, very depressed and low and having panic attacks and whatever, because they didn't think it was the menopause, because they thought I was too young, and because they'd left my ovaries in when I had my hysterectomy, they were like, no, you're not going through the menopause. So I didn't get help with HRT for a long time. So what I did, I looked up what's the most absorbent fabric that I can use, and it was like this bamboo cotton. At the time it was this bamboo cotton, and I bought a load off of eBay, and I actually sewed it into a pair of knickers, but just to see if it would work. And everyone was like, they used to, I don't know if I can swear, sorry, but it was like they used to call them my pissy pants at hockey. Hey, are you wearing your pissy pants? And I'm like, I've got them on and they're great, they're really helping. So it kind of went from there to then designing a pair. I thought, right, okay, I want them to be VPL free. I don't want anyone to be able to see them. And the way that other companies were selling them, the gusset kind of went across your bottom or all the way up to the top of the waistband, which made them really big and bulky. And I don't want them to be that big and bulky, but I still want them to be super absorbent. So yeah, I did all of that. And then I've never worked in business. I've been looking after children for years. I kind of put myself on a couple of courses and then found out that I needed to have a technical pack made. So Googled this, found an amazing woman who makes all of my technical packs now.
And tell us what a technical pack is.
So a technical pack is actually a drawing of the knickers. So we had a Zoom, and I said, I want them to have a scalloped edge. I want them to be seamless, and I want the gusset to sit that's hiding underneath the bottom, but it needs to have layers. So I know it's absorbent. So it gives you like the measurement of the knickers, of every part of the knickers, what it's made of, how it needs to be made. That was like the technical pack. So I got that, and then I thought, right, I need a sample made. So I remember finding this woman, again, Googling everything and finding this woman. I said, I've got this idea. I've got this technical pack. And she literally emailed me back and said, I don't think it's a very good idea, because there are loads of knickers out like that out there already. And I went, oh, okay, thanks very much. Because I thought, oh, she knows what she's talking about. And then somebody said to me, but Kelly, if you go into Boots, there are like 100 different shampoos that you can buy. Why can't there be a different pair of knickers? And I was like, yeah, she's right. So I'm going to look for somebody else. And I wanted everything made in the UK. So I was like, this is going to be the best thing ever. I mean, it was so difficult. I couldn't find a manufacturer. I couldn't find the fabrics. So I thought, right, I know that they're selling these in China. So I'm going to buy a couple of pairs from some factories in China. I had a couple of pairs sent through, and one of them was really, really well made. And the lady is a woman who owns the factory. Speaks really good English. So I messaged her and said, look, we have a chat. This is my idea. I have a technical pack. Could you make a sample? And she came back and said, yeah, no problem. So I think I was quoted in the UK by this woman who said it wasn't a very good idea. She quoted me £1,500 to make one sample. And in China, it was like, it's £150. And I thought, for 150 quid, I got 2 samples made from 2 different factories. And again, this one came through and it was exactly what I wanted. There's a couple of tweaks. And that was it. And in my naivety, I ordered 4,000 pairs of knickers. Had no idea what I was doing. And then like the panic set in. I'd spent all of my savings, because me and my husband were saving to buy a camper van.
Oh, we can talk camper vans another time. Yeah.
Still haven't got the camper van yet, but it will come. So I spent all of my savings on 4,000 pairs of knickers. They came over and I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? And then had to do a photo shoot. Never done that before. Set up my own website. And then I just thought it was like Kevin Costner, build it and they will come. And it's not as simple as that. People did start buying from me. I don't know where they found me from. But then I was very, very lucky early days to meet Connie, my co-founder, who's, again, 20 odd years younger than me, very good at social media. She's witty, she's smart, she's away with words. And we worked together. And yeah, now it was purely, she was doing my social media at the start. And now she's my co-founder. And she just actually left to have a baby. She just had a baby 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So she's fulfilling the maternity part of our strap line, which is, keeping you moving through all of these life stages. So she purely had a baby just for content, I think. That's a lie, but yeah, so she's amazing. And yeah, we have a team now. We've got Claire working with us and she does all of our operations. And we actually have a new social content manager called Rebecca, who started about 7 weeks ago, who's just incredible. Yeah, so we've got a really fantastic team, female team.
And where did your confidence come from? Because I love the story of the whole, I'm going to order 4,000 and I'll sell them. But in terms of that confidence and that, what were your ambitions at the beginning when you did that? Did you always see that it would be something? So
I always say it's not confidence, it's naivety. I just think I'm a bit thick as well, because I just always think, it'll be all right. I honestly, I said this to somebody yesterday, I honestly thought I just need a decent pair of knickers. And from that, I've built like this ridiculous company that employs people and now makes money and is stocked in Boots and on QVC. And we're having amazing conversations with people. I sit back and I think, who am I? This has been a real evolution for me, because I did start off not knowing what I was doing. I still feel like a little bit of me doesn't know what I'm doing, but I feel like I've got so much more confidence now. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't recognize myself from 5 years ago. I feel so much more confident in speaking to people. I was a yes person before. I'm very much no, that doesn't work for me. If that doesn't work for me, I will say, no, actually, it's not going to work for me. I take lots of opportunities. I did used to take everything on. I'll do this, we'll do that. And now I'm trying to be a little bit more choosier. I still want to work with everybody because I want to, I feel like I'm at a stage where I want to support other people now as well. But mentors, I've had some amazing female and male mentors, to be honest with you. And I feel like that makes me feel so incredible, knowing that I've got all of these amazing women around me who support me, and hopefully in some way I can support them as well. And I think that really, really helps my confidence. I look at what they're doing and I think, I'm so in awe of what you're doing, and I want to emulate you. I want to be like you. And yeah, that I feel that's where it's come from.
That's brilliant, isn't it? And our paths first crossed when Kate, Hannah and I, as you mentioned earlier, when we were creating the Women's Book Collective, which was 2020, during COVID. And I think you were such an early supporter of the network. So was that around the time, so 2019, when did the 4,000 pants arrive in your house?
They arrived in 2019. Yeah, boxes and boxes arrived in 2019. Yeah, and I saw you guys really early on and I was like, I want to be a part of this. This is like, firstly, these women are amazing, but they're doing something that's so incredible within sports and supporting all of these women. And I've just watched it grow and grow and grow. And like I said earlier, me and Claire were at a basketball match and we saw you and we were like, oh my God, it's Sue and Kate. And we followed you around before we built up the confidence to say hello to you. And then I've seen you at quite a few places. We've been to Lewis, haven't we, to the football club. Yeah. I think we were at Elevate as well. I've seen you there. Yeah, I'm not stalking you, honestly, so I'm not. I know it looks that way.
Always lovely to see you. Well, I was going to say about COVID. So 2020. So was your band BP3? Were you before you were NIXI?
Yeah, we don't like to talk about BP3.
Right, I'll move on from that.
It's a rubbish name. It was a really rubbish name. So we like to. Yeah, it was. We were BP3 at the time. Yeah.
And where did NIXI come from?
So what happened was actually I won a 10 grand grant, which was completely unexpected. And a couple of people had said to me that BP3 is a really crap name and you need to change it. And I was like, yeah, I know. I just couldn't think of anything else. So we used the 10 grand to basically rebrand. So the NIXI they were ancient female goddesses that helped women with their gynecological issues, and they were often depicted squatting. So we were like, this is what we do. Yeah, this is us. So yeah, NIXI body came from that word actually. And that was our lovely designer Tiff, who we worked with to kind of get that name and get our rebranding. So every single pair of knicker is named after either a family member who's modelled for me or a friend who's modelled for me. So our Susie knicker, which is our most popular knicker, is my mum. My mum is Susie. Oh. She's so proud.
I love that. That's so lovely, isn't it? And that opportunity, you can do whatever you like, can't you? It's your business. What a lovely thing to be able to gift people. I was going to say, so you said you're in your early 40s, perimenopause, or starting a new business. But what advice would you give now to other women who might be listening to this and think, well, they've got an idea or a thought? You know, what advice to distill down, but what would you say?
I mean, you have to have a belief in yourself from the start. You don't listen to people who are poo-pooing you, but surround yourself by amazing women. That's what I've done, and I feel like this is, just grown into something so huge because of the people that I've got around me. It's so important to network, definitely to go out and network. Be confident in your ideas. You're going to make mistakes. I made so many mistakes. I'm still making expensive mistakes today. I always say to people, you learn from your mistakes. I don't learn from my mistakes. I'm still making them. But yeah, I just surround yourself and ask people questions. People are always keen to help. I used to feel really embarrassed asking people for help in the beginning. I used to think people are going to judge me and think that I'm stupid or whatever. I now think people love to help other people. And I have reached out to so many quite high up people who are like, yeah, I'll give you half an hour of my time, or offer to take someone for a coffee. If they've got time, they'll come for a coffee and you can kind of, get all of these answers out of you. And be kind. I think there's a lot to be said for being kind to people, because people remember that and they'll always come back to you. And maybe a relationship that you build from the beginning doesn't kind of evolve into anything. But I think just recently somebody contacted us that I'd spoken to probably about 4 years ago, and they'd remembered me, and now we're doing some work together. So, you've got to be in it for the long run. But I think the most important thing is to surround yourself with great women.
That's lovely to hear. I agree with that. I was just going to ask, I guess, in terms of challenges, and you have said that kind of mistakes made and things, but do you have those kind of sleepless nights and the pressure of, or, I guess, how do you deal with that? Because that is the stressful part, isn't it? As you're building this magnificent thing, but obviously it comes with that too. Yeah,
I mean, I had recently more waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning with that, oh my God, and everything's really highlighted how, it feels so much worse at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's generally cash flow, to be honest with you. It was always cash flow. I know that we've got an amazing business, but there's always a problem with cash flow. And that's probably my biggest fear. Not now, because we've had funding, but that was always my biggest fear. Have I got enough money? That needs to come in so I can pay for that, so then that can go out and we can grow that. Going through the menopause, I think, was probably worse, having those kind of issues and anxiety through that. HRT has really, really helped me. But I don't think I wouldn't have built the company if I wasn't going through the menopause. So I'm actually quite grateful for having the menopause. And I do feel like I'm still menopausal, but I've come through that horrible anxiety stage and whatever. I feel like such a strong, powerful woman now. And I feel like that's just my stage of life, but that's not just being on HRT. I think it is surrounding myself by such amazing, supportive women and men. I can't keep saying just women, because I've got some, my husband is amazing. He's so supportive of everything that I do. But, and there are other men that have really helped me on my journey. But basically, I just like women. I like working with women. It's so much nicer.
It's interesting. This wasn't the route of the podcast and tape, but it's really interesting that post-menopause, and I'm older than you, so I'm through that. But the impact of HRT and all of those on me now, feeling I can take it anything. I feel confident. I feel strong. I feel the best I've ever felt in terms of business. And obviously, I'm now doing something very different to what I was doing 25 years ago, running the agency. But I just feel like in this fabulous, not almost unchallengeable, but I can go and do that if I want to do that. It's like a really different place to be. And I think we often think about that older women as getting a bit frail and not quite there. But actually, it's almost, this is the point, I think, where I feel the strongest, most able to deliver whatever it is I want to do than I've ever felt in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I really do. I just feel like nothing is too large for me to be able to cope with now. I used to get, like, if something come up and it used to stress me out and I'd be worried and crying and stressing out about it and I couldn't deal with it. But now if something comes in and I think, okay, that's quite a big task, I don't know if I feel mentally prepared to do that quite yet, so I'm going to leave that and I'll deal with it later. Whereas in the past I would be fretting and crying. And you're so right, we're in this new era now where I just feel like, throw it at me. You just throw it at me and I'm just going to deal with it. I'm not even scared anymore. There's so many, just going to events now. I used to hate going. I actually would never ever go, if I was meeting friends, I'd never walk into a pub on my own. I'd walk around the block and be 10 minutes late so I wasn't the first one in the pub, because I used to get real anxiety about that. I'd never sit and eat dinner on my own if I was out travelling. I actually was on business in Scotland recently, and for the first time in my life, I'm 53, I had dinner on my own. I went to a restaurant, didn't have a book or a magazine, didn't get my phone out, and I sat quite confidently and I could see people looking at me and I was like, look at me, look how big and brave I am. I felt really amazing. And I didn't just go straight back to the hotel and lock the door and sit in the room on my own. I did a little bit of sightseeing, and that I just feel has come with age. That's definitely, age has brought a new confidence to me. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Sue. It's a great way to feel, isn't it?
Absolutely. We want all those younger women to know it gets very positive in the future too, doesn't it?
It really does. Like, you're right. People talk about getting older and how frail you become and how sad your little life is. But actually, my kids are grown up now. Me and my husband are so excited for our next era. We're trying to get them to move out. It's proving quite difficult. But once they're out, we're going to be off. We're going to be travelling. We're going to get that camper van, and we're going to be living our life again. It's so exciting.
I love it. You mentioned earlier in terms of funding and that accessing funding, and I do know the cash flow challenges of running a business. And I know that you have been seeking investment and you've got investment now, but we do often hear, don't we, that female entrepreneurs have a harder time in finding that funding, just generally, but also within the sports space too. So what has your experience been there?
Yeah, so I mean, we for a long time I was very resistant to funding, but then realised that actually the stage where we were at, we actually needed it to grow to be even bigger. So we took on an advisor, a female advisor, who was amazing, and she helped to prepare us. It's taken us about a year to prepare, to get ready, to go out to pitch. And honestly, I speak to so many different people, and so many people like, it's a brilliant product. Let me know when you're looking to raise. Like, these are all men, by the way, that I've met throughout different events. And I've actually thought, this is going to be really easy. These people know me. They know my product. They think it's amazing. And actually, when I sent it out to people, I just got blanked. It was like tumbleweed. I was so shocked. I was like, but you said it was a really good product, and now you're just like ignoring me. I think the problem is, obviously, it's a very taboo subject that we're dealing with. It's a very niche product. We've actually targeted it towards the sporting, the female within sports. And again, female sport is so on the rise. And I just honestly thought it was going to be I was very naive. I just thought it was going to be really easy for us to do. To be fair, we did get investment from one investor, and we closed the round in 6 weeks. So from the time we opened the round to we closing it was 6 weeks, and having the money in the account. This guy is amazing. He is so supportive. He's somebody that I've known for a long time. He's actually a friend of my husband. So again, very, very lucky. He was in our circle, and I think that it's so important to look within your inner circle of people. But he has watched us. He's watched me grow for the past 5 years, 6 years. And he said, I know you've got an amazing product, but I also know how hard you work. I've watched you, and I'm investing in you and your team. I'm not investing just in your company. So he's taken a step back. He's introduced me to a couple of people that have, actually we're hoping to work with as well, but he's almost just like our silent partner. So my story is probably very, very unique, because we know that women tend to get, I think it's at the moment it's less than 2%. It's probably just over 1%. So it's gone down, I know, in the last year.
How much were you hoping to raise?
We raised 300k. So I say it's not huge. It's actually big. It's pretty big, for our first raise. And that money is going to be spent on marketing, on salaries, on stock, and just kind of things like that. So we've already taken on one member of staff. I'm trying to be really frugal because as a mum, always had 6 kids. I've always had a budget to deal with, and I'm very good with a budget. But then we had a meeting the other week where apparently I was being a bit tight with the budget. So because I'm constantly watching it thinking, I don't want that to go below that, and that so apparently I was being a bit tight and we weren't sticking to our plan. So I've had to kind of let go a little bit. Again, it's a real learning curve for me. I've never been the CEO of a company before. So I'm dealing with all of these things that are really alien to me. So we're all growing and learning together at the same time. But I've got a really amazing support network around me. We've got a couple of amazing advisors. So Julia Elliott-Brown, she's one of our advisors. Got Claire Robinson. So I met Claire Robinson. She's ex-Reebok and Adidas. Met her on the Women in Football and Zero Entrepreneur Partnership program, which was absolutely incredible. And we've had so many opportunities from that. And I still meet up with all of the women that were on there. And then our other advisor is a guy called John Dennis. He's a wonderful man. He's great. He owns a company called Fit Brand. So he's in the sport industry. He knows a lot of people, and he's actually our distributor. We're now stocked in, we're going to be launching in Up and Running at the end of the month. We're in, Run Company in all of their stores, in the Running Hub. And he started the conversations with us with Parkrun as well. So we're actually on Parkrun's website in a shop, and we sell out all the time on there, which is incredible for us. So so I've got a great team. And then I've got my mentor from the Zero and Women in Football program was Laura Youngson, who we all know and love. And
Laura is the founder of IDA and also a guest in this series as well too, which is a lovely coincidence.
Yeah, and she's just had her third baby. She's an absolute machine. I just am in complete awe of Laura. She's been an incredible influence for me. And then there's Lucy from Peabury Bras as well. I think you might be talking to Lucy.
She's going to be a guest as well on
Amazing.
Game Changers,
She's been incredible for us as well, so supportive. And, again, I'm hoping that we do help each other out, but we connected. Actually, I think it was because of the Women Sports Collective. I think we kind of spotted each other. But I've actually worked with quite a few of the women who I've met through the WSC from our Zoom calls and kind of reaching out when you see someone's part of the same collective of you, like, we should connect on LinkedIn, and so many connections that I've made. Yeah.
So lovely to hear. I was going to ask you, just leading in from that, so that whole, we talk about women's sport being this really collaborative space in terms of people sharing news, etc., and sports teams and leagues across that supporting each other rather than always competing. I'm going to ask you this, and it sounds like from what you've just said, it is the case, but is that the same in the female product space with different brands and companies seeming to collaborate?
Absolutely, yes, definitely. We're on a breakout WhatsApp group, and we are all entrepreneurs, all female entrepreneurs who all make products to keep girls and women playing sports and being active. So there's quite a lot of us on there, but we do all support each other. Like if we're at an event, we try to collaborate with each other. We share information. I think sometimes it might be a little bit difficult if you've got exactly the same product as somebody else. There's going to be a little bit of gatekeeping, and I can understand that. You're working hard to build your brand. We started our brand around the sports arena. It was always around the sports arena, and we kind of lost our way a little bit because we were starting to our target audience is actually really vast. It's 9-year-old girls can wear our period products up to I had a lady who's about 98 who used to ring up to buy her knickers for her bladder leaks. So I feel like we lost our way a little bit, but then it came back to, do you know what? I want to keep everybody moving and looking at the stats of how many girls give up playing sports because, periods are such a barrier to participation. So, we kind of went back to that, and now it's more of, it's a collaborative thing with all of these women. And I think I do speak for everybody when I say, we do really, really support each other. And it's so nice when you go to an event and you see someone, that you can connect with and try to work with together. And, watch this space. As I said before, watch this space. There's some really exciting things happening with all of these amazing female entrepreneurs in the sporting world. I can't speak about it. It's really frustrating, but you'll know soon. And we know soon. You know anyway, but you can't tell anybody. But there's some really exciting stuff coming up, and this has been collaborative. And I've got to say, Laura has driven it from the very start. Laura, and actually Martha from Fab Little Bag as well, was the one that kind of put this idea into everyone's head. So yeah, it's exciting. It's so exciting.
And do you personally get frustrated when you see the big brands now taking that space, but maybe not doing it with the passion and the authenticity and the expertise that you have?
Yeah, I did used to get really worried. I used to think, oh my God, they're going to copy my design. They're going to come in and do this and do that. But if you look at the likes of Nike and Adidas, they're bringing out similar products, but it's a very tiny part of what they're offering. So they're looking at it like, we're not going to make a lot of money out of this. What I look at is I think, well, actually, you're raising the profile of these products. So it's good that people know that they're out there. So, I know Primark do period knickers now, Marks and Spencer's do period knickers. And sometimes there's this whole, oh my God, but if it's actually really good for women to have choice. Yeah. My knickers might not be for everybody. And that's great that there's something else out there that will help you to still participate in sport, to be able to manage your period better, to give you that, a new innovational way of having a period. So that's really good. I used to get really worried. Now I'm just glad that, they're elevating the fact that this product's out there, and hopefully at some stage people will find us and buy us and love us and use us forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are the biggest challenges that you face right now then? So is it around awareness? Is it around enough product out there? Is it about listings and distribution? Like where are the difficult points for you in terms of your growth?
Yeah, I think it's brand awareness, definitely. We've been going for, people are always like, oh, so you're a new brand. It's like, actually, no, we've been going for 5 years. But I feel like we're a brand challenger, definitely. That's quite difficult. And also actually with the rise of women's sport is amazing, but now you've got all of these brands that are wanting to get into the big teams, and it's very difficult we haven't got the budget to be able to support, and we really wish we had the budget. We want to get in and we want people to be paid, and girls should be paid professionally like men are. So it's great to see that's on the rise, but actually that worries me. It's like, are we going to kind of miss the boat on that? I honestly think we're getting there. We're getting the big listings. We're speaking to some really exciting people. I was recently in Poland, and they were a little bit backward on products like this. But we launched last year with a distributor, and it's growing and growing. And it was really lovely to meet all of these people that own the shops that we're stocked in over in Poland. And it's, we're doing that there, then we need to emulate that. I always thought that you had to really focus and nail the UK market before you went anywhere else. But recently did listen to this podcast. It was like, actually, no, this just might not be the best market for your product. Maybe you need to take it to the Middle East. Maybe you need to do that. So that's something else that we really kind of want to focus on and start to look at, international markets, because I think it's such a big market for us. And in terms of education for girls and mothers and fathers, in terms of putting girls into these pants, because it's almost like a bit of a no-brainer. I had 3 girls myself. It was almost like that no-brainer of like, why would I not have had, I guess they weren't around at the time, but even now as they're older, where does that change, that shift? And I guess it is for some. I know there's conversation around the sports bras. Sometimes it can be the cost, it can be, but actually with this, in terms of how much you spend on sanitary protection across their life period products, God, the equation must be that it's better to buy these. So where does that need to shift, that education piece? Yeah, so I think people do say there is an initial outlay to buy in these knickers. So if you were to buy 5 pairs of, say, my Susie knickers, you'd pay about 80 quid, but they would last you about 3 years. Over 3 years, you would be spending, and this is just on organic tampons or pads, you'd be spending about 180 quid. So, but not just that, you've not contributing to all of the waste that's ending up on our beaches and our landfills. Your vaginal health will probably thank you for it as well. There's a lot of people that I've spoken to, not necessarily using my products, but they're saying that they've made the switch from disposable to reusables and finding that their cramps aren't as bad. So there's something to be said about maybe how these products, these disposable products, are affecting your vaginal and your hormonal health. So yeah, I think definitely as an education piece, we try to do a lot of that on our social media. Our blogs as well, our website. I feel like we're pretty informative on all of our social channels. So how do we get out to these girls to get the message across? A lot of it is also that you use the products that your mum was using. And again, there's not been a lot of innovation. I mean, I used a menstrual cup when I was towards the end of having my periods. I found out about the menstrual cup, and my mates thought I was an absolute weirdo because I was using a menstrual cup. It was the best thing I'd ever had. Actually, we work with the unicorn menstrual cup, a lady called Julie. She's fantastic. She's so educational. And she always says, it's about education. You know, she's trying to sell this menstrual cup and people are like, oh, it's disgusting. Like, oh, why would you put that inside your vagina? And she said, it's like, it's about education, and we just need to keep getting it out there and pushing it. And hopefully we get a lot of our sales through word of mouth. So people are telling their friends who are telling their friends, and it's just going to keep growing like that.
And I guess you've alluded to some of the collaboration stuff that's happening in this space. But in terms of NIXI Body, just as in closing, really, your future plans for the growth, you talked international space perhaps, but what are your kind of overall plans and ambition for NIXI Body?
So, I mean, we have some really great partnerships already. So we've partnered up with Scottish Hockey, who have been amazing. They have really supported their female athletes. So there's a few of us working with them, actually. Fab Little Bag, there's Unicorn, PB Bras as well. So we collaboratively have worked with them, which has been amazing. We've worked with Wales Lacrosse as well, which has been super. Bounce. So we want to work with all of these kind of like sports teams and companies, and not just the big ones. We've actually, again, I can't say it. We're just about to announce a partnership with like one of the biggest sports in the UK that's the females play. I can't say, you might work it out, but I can't say. But once that's announced, then I can tell you.
I'll put it in the show notes afterwards if we can announce it.
Yeah, we're talking to a lot of big teams at the moment, but not just big teams. We want to support from grassroots up. So we have a really great affiliate scheme that if people within your club use the code, then you get a commission. So clubs can actually get cash back from that. I've got to say, actually, we work with Athletics Bromley Athletics Club. I'm going to say it wrong. Claire's going to go mad. It's BBAHC, and they've been amazing, and we want to support all of their athletes. So yeah, there's lots. That's the kind of next stage for us, is to try and support, not just with the knickers, but with education, and hopefully with a little bit of cash as well, because, you know, we're just so passionate about girls having to play these sports. And if you haven't got the teams there, then we're not going to be able to go out and play these games. So we want to be able to support us in many different ways as we can.
Brilliant. And in terms of you personally and the business and you're growing, what's your long-term goal? Just to keep it growing and thriving and get that camper van?
Yeah, I want to get that camper van eventually. I love what I do. I live and breathe what I'm doing. You know, this is more than a full-time job to me. This is my life. I love it. I want to keep educating people. I want to grow it, keep growing it, and eventually retire and travel around the world in my little camper van. The dream for me is we're working so hard, and at the end of all of this, I want to be off traveling with my husband. Maybe my kids can come for a little bit, and just look back and just think what an amazing thing that we've done. Just literally, I needed a decent pair of knickers, and now I have a fully fledged, like, quite positive and, you know, great company. And I just feel really proud of everything we've achieved. And yeah, people like you have really helped us to kind of launch this, and the community that you've built is absolutely incredible, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. So thank you.
If you'd like to hear from more trailblazers like Kelly, there are over 200 episodes of the Game Changers podcast that are free to listen to on all podcast platforms, or from our website at fearlesswomen.co.uk. Along with elite athletes, guests include coaches, entrepreneurs, broadcasters, scientists, journalists and CEOs, all women who are changing the game in women's sport. As well as listening to all the podcasts on the website, you can also find out more about the Women's Sport Collective, a free, inclusive community for all women that work in sport. We now have over 8,500 members across the world, so please do come and join us. The whole of my book, Game On, The Unstoppable Rise of Women's Sport, is also free to listen to on the podcast. Every episode of Series 13 is me reading a chapter of the book. Thank you once again to Sport England for backing the Game Changers and the Women's Sport Collective with the National Lottery Award, and to Sam Walker at What Goes On Media, who does such a brilliant job as our executive producer. Thank you also to my lovely colleague at Fearless Women, Kate Hannon. You can find the Game Changers on all podcast platforms, so please do follow us now and you won't miss out on future episodes. Do come and say hello on social media, where you'll find me on LinkedIn and Instagram at Sue Anstis. The Game Changers, fearless women in sport.